Good morning, or no, I just missed the threshold. Good afternoon. It's 12:02 p.m. on Sunday, March 10th, 2019. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I've been up for a little while, but it's also later than usual because of daylight savings time. Yep. So springing forward is not usually the fun part, although for me, because I've been, working at home and having a having a slightly different type of schedule, it just means that I will feel like I am running even later than otherwise. But yes, Clinton is in the watching live. Says good snowy Sunday, and yes, it is. It's very, it's kind of just spitting what they call wintry mix here right now, but it looks pretty outside. But so I am today, it is Sunday, and because I'm back from vacation now, I'm resuming my Gravity Falls rewatch. And so today I'm going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 16, the episode entitled Carpet Diem. And it is it's a body switching episode. Hooray! Classic cartoon trope. Yeah, I guess so. I think this is actually a really strong episode of this series. It includes some nice hints towards, the big A-plot series plots that they're doing, where if you haven't watched it, you wouldn't necessarily know what to make of this strange new room that they find in the Mystery Shack, and the pair of glasses that Grunkle Stan seems oddly fixated on. Those of us who have seen the whole series do know what's up with those things, but I won't spoil them now, because that's kind of just the approach I've been doing with this rewatch, is that we deal with story points as we come to them. But in the meantime, at this point in the series, we don't know what the deal is with those glasses or that room. But so we start, this is, we've had episodes that are, Dipper episodes or Mabel episodes. And this one really is focused on the relationship between the two of them, which is typical, of course, of a body switching episode of any cartoon or TV show or movie that does that. It's about relationships, right? But so the basic, we start out with the two of them playing attic stuff mini golf and actually getting along pretty well and being fairly destructive. And as just a neat little bit of trivia that also only would have meaning to anyone who has seen the whole show, they're using a glass eye as the ball for their mini golf game. And when it crashes through their attic window, the attic window is a perfect triangle, and the eye goes right through the center of it. And if you freeze frame it, it's that classic image of the triangle with one eye in the center of it. And once again, if you've seen the whole series, you know why that's something. But that's just a little throwaway bit of animation fun. So they're getting along pretty well, but then Mabel says she has to stop early because her friends are coming over, sleepover. And, this episode does have a little bit of, this stuff, ooh, boys are gross, ooh, girls are gross, that sort of stuff in it. But at the same time, of course, it's a body switching episode. So, there's a little bit of that to be expected. But more to the point, what we have here is, it's one thing for Dipper to feel like, to be a little bit, my boy protests too much sort of thing about overreacting to the girly stuff in the sleepover. But the truth is, of course, that he is not invited to participate in the sleepover activities, nor does he seem like he wants to, but they do keep him up, and they're loud in his room, and it does raise real questions of etiquette roommate etiquette, right? If they share rooms, but she's doing stuff that really only she's interested in, and he and inconveniences him, then that's a fair thing to want to discuss. And so, in the meantime, we have some fun stuff with him just looking for another place to sleep. I like the details first of discovering Seuss's break room is apparently just literally the utility closet, and he describes, oh, it's fine, you just have to fold yourself into it like a video game puzzle block. And he's like standing in this weird position, and he says, now you just have to hold perfectly still, and except that like if he lowers his arm even a second, like a little bit, he burns himself on a pipe. And yeah, so, Dipper's like, you know what? I don't think I'll try that. So he goes to sleep outside, and at a certain point, he wakes up to a wolf literally chewing on his leg, and he is alarmed, but then looks up through the window and sees Mabel still doing the sleepover with Candy and Grenda, and it's like, nope, still better. And he goes and tries to go back to sleep with the wolf still chewing on his leg. That's a pretty good gag. In the meantime, though, as we're building up to them having actual conflict over this, we also have Grunkle Stan watching various types of fights on the TV, including baby fights, that's a good gag. So the whole sleepover episode, incident leads Dipper and Mabel to kind of come to conflict on, who's more annoying, more annoying as they share the room. Because, Dipper, I think, we can talk about just like appropriate etiquette. He reasonably can complain that she didn't ask him about doing a sleepover in the room, didn't even let him know in advance that it was going to happen. And, also as we've discussed in previous episodes, and they bring up explicitly later in this episode, Mabel has been able to make friends here in Gravity Falls, but Dipper really kind of hasn't. He sort of follows Wendy around a little bit, but he's not really friends with her friends, and that's a fraught relationship too. So, the fact that she has two close friends to do stuff with, there's an undercurrent there of, she's going off to do stuff with her friends that he's not invited to participate. And so we could see why that would make him a little lonely. But then, of course, we have Mabel saying, but you annoy me all the time, and I've not ever said anything. And, like we see apparently his summer reading involves reading some Hardy Boys analog and talking to himself about the mystery and clicking pens and just making generally a lot of noise, keeping her awake at night. And it's like, okay, yeah, see, that's also fair. And so the problem here, of course, as is always the case with this type of episode, is that both sides have reasonable complaints. And the problem ultimately is not that either of them is entirely in the wrong, but that they are not communicating well, right? That's, of course, always the thing. But in the meantime, they decide, well, maybe they need to swap, or to change rooms. But there's not another secret room somewhere in the Mystery Shack, is there? Cue Seuss discovering a secret room in the Mystery Shack. And this is, so we introduce this room, which is kind of a cool looking room. It has some strange clues in it. It's clearly dusty, hasn't been occupied for a long time. The last date circled on the calendar on the wall is July 4th, 1982. There's some strange things in the room, including this pair of glasses that Grunkle Stan quickly pockets and seems interested in. And our attention as viewers is brought to this mysterious rug, which of course becomes the mechanic for instigating this body switching stuff. It is the Experiment 78 electron rug. And it's actually kind of I really like, as a MacGuffin for creating this body switching magic. Just the idea of you shuffle around on this carpet and it builds up the static charge, and then you zap the person, and that's how it works. That's a fun way to do it. I think that's cool. So in any event, before we even get to that, though, we have the kids both wanting the new room. So Grunkle Stan decides to pit them against each other, just like the baby fights he saw on TV. And, which one of them is going to get to the room is based on who's sucking up more. So they're both trying to impress him, which is fun because then once they switch and after they get over the initial shock and realize, oh, we know how to turn back, but if we don't turn back yet, they can each try to sabotage the other in this competition to get the new room, which again is fun. And once they switch, I will say, like, this is true of all the switches they do. The animators really did a great job, I think, of indicating visually when you had a different personality in each body, because the voices stay the same for each character, which makes sense in a cartoon that you kind of need that. And I think it's right to do that. And plus, of course, it comes from, it produces silly things when we see the unexpected voices coming from each characters. But they also added little details like Dipper in Mabel's body. It shows, Dipper, as he's drawn, has these little lines under his eyes all the time. And so when he's in Mabel's body, we see those lines on Mabel. And Dipper's hair is drawn differently when Mabel's in it, and the body language of how they're acting is different. And I think it's just actually, it's worth observing that they did a great job of indicating that and having it feel different. And then, of course, once we start getting more switches, we get Seuss and Waddles. That's fun too. Mostly they're just for quick little gags, like Waddles managing to propose to a girl and get a raise from Grunkle Stan and stuff like that. Whereas Seuss just discovers it's great being a pig up until someone wants to eat you and make you into bacon. And I liked also his delayed reaction of, like, I'm going to make you into bacon. And he's like, bacon. Oh, wait, no. But then we also get some, as the kids are each trying to sabotage the other, it's kind of fun watching them just be silly and kind of really cut loose trying to be the other. But then, of course, they each get like the downside of what they're dealing with. Dipper is saying, it's like my mouth hates me with these braces. And, Mabel and Dipper's body's like, why are you so sweaty and awkward? And then, the Candy and Grenda come back over. So Dipper, as Mabel, gets stuck in the sleepover stuff, which again there's a little bit of a like, oh gosh, isn't it funny that a boy has to listen to learn about makeup and stuff like that. It's fine, but it's a little extreme. But I will have to say that Mabel as Dipper having to get the boys' version of the Birds and the Bees talk from Stan, that seems like a much more horrific fate, frankly. Oh, hey, Viv. Yes, Seuss is great. So each of them, all of the people who have switched have gotten to this point now where they are, horrified at what has befallen them. I think Waddles in Seuss's body doesn't seem to have a problem really, but he's a pig, so what does he care? But it's some fun stuff, and then of course, I think we get to a great point where they're finally going to switch back. The room has gone to, been awarded to Dipper because Mabel's last-ditch effort to get Stan to give it to Mabel. To Mabel was to really act aggressive towards Stan, but then Stan says, "Oh, you finally stood up to me. That's what I was waiting for all along." So they kind of sadly decide, like they're switching back, but there's the tension, the conflict between them hasn't really been resolved in a satisfying way, and so there's still this undercurrent of sadness, which is levied somewhat by the silliness when they decide to switch back, but because Candy and Grenda are still right there and they're curious about this rug too, and then more people show up and there's lots of switching all over the place, which is great fun. And we get the Old Man McGucket showing up and the two police officers, and they're it's all very silly, but they don't leave anyone switched inappropriately, although there is a fun gag, especially given that there was the one with the growing and shrinking where they accidentally left Seuss shrunk. Not that anything came of that, but there's the moment where they're saying, I think we've got everyone switched back, although Seuss might be a pig forever. And because we see Seuss chewing on the wall, and he says, "Oh no, I'm back." He's just chewing on the wall, because sure. But of course, we end the episode with, the kids have made peace, but clearly there's still that hurt feelings from both of them, and they're settling down into their different rooms. Mabel concedes the room to Dipper, and he's a little gracious to accept, but then we see them each trying to sleep for the first time in their room without their twin, and then Dipper goes back up to say, "Hey, you want to have a sleepover?" And it's such a nice note to end the episode on. So I think this is a really strong episode with a lot of funny stuff in it, some really nice animation touches, and a good lesson learned by our twin characters. And so I think there's just a lot going on there. And then on top of that, it gives us new mystery clues for the big overall thing, because whose room was that? Whose glasses are those? And another random little bit of trivia is that in the episode, The Time Traveler's Pig, when there is a brief scene where they go back in time and we see the Mystery Shack as a much older thing before it was made into this tourist attraction, we saw what seemed to be Stan coming out of the front door to investigate a noise, wearing different style of glasses, including the style we just saw. So what's up with that? These Stan's old glasses? What's going on there? We'll find out as you continue to watch Gravity Falls. So I'll continue my rewatch next week with Season 1, Episode 17, Boys Crazy. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.